That night, I did not argue. I just pressed a single button. 8 years of being the family bank collapsed like a piece of revoked code. He thought I would cry, but he forgot. You do not provoke a security engineer who knows exactly how to legally close every single door. My name is Morgan Wallace. I am 36 years old. The air in my parents' backyard was thick, heavy with the scent of cheap beer, lighter fluid, and the cloying sweetness of Jolene's famous pecan pie. It was Rhett's 34th birthday, and the party was exactly as I expected: a loud, sprawling mess. String lights, the ones I'd paid for in a long-forgotten Amazon order, drooped precariously between the house and the old cottonwood tree, casting a sickly yellow glow on the faces of cousins I barely recognized. The music, some aggressive, bass-heavy track thumping from a Bluetooth speaker, was loud enough to vibrate the folding table beneath my palms. This was Rhett's element. My younger brother, the perpetual entrepreneur, the dreamer, the black hole of familial obligation. I watched my daughter, Piper, navigate the chaos. At 15, she possessed a quiet center of gravity that I had lost somewhere in my early 20s. She clutched a small, carefully wrapped package to her chest. Inside was a valet tray, made of thick, vegetable-tanned leather. She had spent weeks on it in her high school's craft club, a hobby she'd picked up recently. She had meticulously measured, cut, and wet-molded the corners. She had stamped the center with a geometric pattern, the tiny hammer taps echoing in our quiet apartment for a week. It was simple, earnest, and entirely hers. I knew this was a mistake, bringing a handmade gift, an item of genuine effort, into this den of performative affection and casual cruelty was like bringing a lamb to a barbecue. But Piper had insisted. "Uncle Rhett loves leather. Mom, it's for his workshop." Rhett was holding court by the grill, gesturing expansively with a beer bottle, his voice cutting through the music. He was explaining, again, his vision for the Old Town Leather Workshop. My $75,000, hard-earned and carefully saved, were funding this vision. Eventually, Jolene, my mother, started bustling. Gifts, Rhett, honey, come open your gifts." A pile of obligatory offerings appeared: liquor bottles, gift cards, cash tucked into funny cards. Piper approached him last, her face hopeful and nervous. She handed him the small, square box. Rhett, already flushed from the beer and attention, tore the paper off impatiently. He lifted the lid, looked at the small, sturdy leather tray, and paused. For a second, I thought he might actually see it. Then, he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was a sharp, barking sound of derision. "What is this?" he asked, holding it up between two fingers as if it were contaminated. Piper's voice was small. "It's a tray, for your keys or wallet. I made it." Rhett's upper lip curled into a sneer I had known my entire life. "You made it, I can tell." He looked around the table, playing to his audience. "Cheap, worthless trash." The words hung in the humid Albuquerque air. He did not yell them. He said them with a cold, dismissive finality. Then, with a flick of his wrist, he tossed the tray. It arced over the potato salad and landed with a soft, dull thud in the large plastic trash bin standing next to the party table, already overflowing with paper plates and beer cans. He did not throw it at her. He did not touch her. He just erased her effort as if it were an inconvenience. Silence. For a beat, every eye was on Piper, then on me. Piper's face went blank. It was a defense mechanism I had taught her, the same one I was deploying myself. Do not react. Do not give them the satisfaction of tears. Then, the laughter started. It was my mother, Jolene, who broke the tension, her voice a high, nervous twitter. "Oh, Rhett, you're terrible," she giggled. "Kids just do that for fun. Piper, honey, it's cute you tried." My father, Wayne, just shook his head and took a long drink, his eyes avoiding mine. "It's just a joke, Morgan," an aunt slurred from across the yard. The rest of the table joined in. a chorus of chuckles validating the casual cruelty. Rhett beamed, the center of attention once more, and moved on to the next envelope, this one containing cash. I did not raise my voice. I did not storm over. I did not defend my daughter. A fight here would accomplish nothing. It would only feed the drama, make us the difficult ones, the ones who can't take a joke. Instead, I stayed seated. My pulse was not fast. It was slow, cold, and methodical. A system alert, a critical vulnerability exploited. My daughter's face was the data log proving the breach. I slowly reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. The screen glowed, illuminating my face in the dusk. I swiped, my fingers moving with practiced efficiency. First, I opened the camera. I zoomed in on the car parked haphazardly on the lawn, tearing up the dry grass my father pretended to care about. A 2018 Audi A4. Metallic gray. Rhett's pride and joy. The asset. I took a clear, sharp photograph. The license plate was perfectly legible. Second, I swiped up to my notifications. There it was, right on time, as it had been for the past 8 years, a push notification from my bank. Scheduled payment $200 rent, Wayne Jolene Daily. It was due to process tomorrow. The first of the month, the liability. I took a screenshot. My name is Morgan Wallace. I am a single mother, and I am a senior cloud security engineer at Mirage Scale Labs. My job is not just to build systems, it is to find their weaknesses, to anticipate bad actors, and to implement protocols that revoke access the instant a threat is confirmed. I am paid a stable, significant salary because I am very, very good at protecting assets and managing risk. For 8 years, I have been the primary financial backbone of my extended family. 8 years, ever since I landed my first serious tech job and my parents had their first temporary setback. 8 years I have paid the rent on their house, ensuring they had a roof over their heads while they enabled my brother's cascading failures. 18 months ago, that enablement escalated. Rhett came to me with a business plan, his Old Town leather workshop. It was sleek, full of buzzwords, projections, and promises of tapping into the tourist market. He needed $75,000, not a gift, he insisted, a loan. We even formalized it, or so I thought. We signed a contract. I had a lawyer draft it, the $75,000, wired from my savings, the money I had been setting aside for Piper's college fund. The loan was secured against the only thing he owned outright, his 2018 Audi A4. The contract was co-signed with a small professional lender, Archer and Wren Capital, who handled the lien. I wasn't the primary lender. I was the guarantor, the trusted family member who made the professional lender comfortable. Family helps family, Morgan, my father had said, clapping me on the shoulder, the smell of whiskey on his breath. It's what we do, that phrase. Family helps family had become an invisible leash. It was the access key they used to bypass my firewalls. It was the root password to my generosity. I looked across the yard. Piper had not moved. She was watching me, her eyes dark, her expression unreadable. She was waiting to see what I would do. She was hiding the deep, stinging disappointment, the raw humiliation of having her work, her effort, declared worthless. My gaze dropped back to my phone. I closed the photos and opened my banking app. Face ID recognized me in the gloom. The familiar interface loaded. I navigated to scheduled payments. There it was, the long list of my responsibilities, the autopay for my parents' rent, the autopay for their internet, the small recurring transfer to Rhett's business account I'd set up for contingencies. My thumb hovered over the primary one, the $2,200 rent payment. It was just a line of text, a digital instruction in a sea of data. Beside it, a small, unassuming hyperlink, disable autopay. This was not an emotional decision. It was a risk assessment. The vulnerability my family's entitlement had been actively exploited. The immediate cost was a handmade leather tray. The long-term cost was my daughter's self-worth and my own financial security. The protocol for such a breach is clear: isolate the affected systems, revoke credentials, and secure the perimeter. I watched Rhett tear open an envelope of cash from our grandmother and whoop, waving the bills in the air. I looked at Piper, who was now methodically picking almonds out of a bowl. Her jaw set. I took a slow breath, the smell of cheap charcoal filling my lungs. Then I pressed the button. A small loading icon spun for a half second. A confirmation screen appeared. Scheduled payment disabled, I pressed, and the undercurrent began. 18 months ago, the scene was not the chaotic backyard. It was my clean, quiet kitchen. Rhett had not come over for a beer. He had scheduled a meeting. He arrived on a Tuesday morning, smelling of expensive cologne and carrying a leather-bound presentation folder. He placed it on my quartz countertop with a solid, professional thud. Rhett is a salesman. He does not sell products. He sells a vision of himself. That morning, he was selling the vision of Rhett Daly, artisan entrepreneur. "Morgan, I am not here to ask for a handout," he began, opening the binder. The pages were thick cardstock. He had mock-ups of a storefront in Old Town, renderings of distressed wood counters and hanging Edison bulbs. He had spreadsheets. "This is not a hobby. This is a scalable business." He talked fast, gesturing with hands that had never seen a day of manual labor. He used terms he had clearly memorized from business podcasts. "We are not just selling wallets, Morgan. We are selling the authentic Albuquerque experience. We're tapping into the high-end tourist market." He flipped to a page with a colorful pie chart. "Foot traffic in Old Town is up 12% year over year. My projections are conservative. I am an engineer. I live in a world of data. I respect data." Rhett, for the first time in his life, had brought me data. "I have costed the suppliers. I have negotiated a lease on a prime location. I have the benches, the tools, the clicker press. We are looking at a 28 to 35% profit margin on flagship products." He leaned in, his voice dropping to one of conspiratorial confidence. "I've run the numbers. Full break-even in 16 to 18 months. Max. After that, sis, it's pure profit." It was a good pitch. It was tight, practiced, and designed to bypass my skepticism and appeal directly to my analytical brain. And I was vulnerable. I was 12 months post-divorce. The legal smoke had cleared. The assets had been divided, and my world had contracted to a stable, predictable, and somewhat lonely state. I was Morgan Wallace, senior engineer, sole provider for my daughter. My salary was the bedrock of our lives. My income was steady, significant, and mine. Rhett's proposal did not land as a request. It landed as an opportunity to build something, an opportunity to invest in a family asset, to create a story of success that was not just mine, but ours. My engineering mind saw the potential flaws, the optimistic projections, but the part of me that was tired of fracturing, tired of endings, wanted to build. "I cannot just give you $75,000, Rhett," I had said, my voice firm. "I'm not asking you to," he countered smoothly. "I am getting a professional loan, but my credit—" He waved his hand, dismissing a lifetime of poor decisions. "It's a little messy. The banks, they do not see the vision. They just see the past. So what do you need from me?" I found a lender, Archer and Wren Capital. They specialize in artisan businesses. They love the plan. They love the location. They just need a little reassurance, a guarantor, someone to show them this is a serious, stable venture. So I agreed to the meeting. We sat in a sterile glass conference room in an uptown office building. Mila Hart, the representative from Archer and Wren, was the absolute antithesis of my brother. She wore a severe gray suit. Her hair was pulled back into a tight, uncompromising knot. She did not smile. She looked at Rhett's beautiful binder, her eyes scanning the spreadsheets. I watched her, and I saw her gaze pause on the exact same cells that had given me pause the cash flow assumptions, the optimistic tourist conversion rate. She looked at his credit report. A single sheet of paper she had printed, and her expression did not change. Then, she looked at me. She studied me as if I were a line of code she was debugging. "The projections are optimistic, Mr. Daly," she said, her voice flat, cutting through Rhett's practiced charm. "Your cost of goods is low, and your revenue projections are aggressive." "It's a hot market," Rhett offered. Mila Hart ignored him, her eyes still on me. "Archer and Wren Capital is prepared to offer the $75,000, she said. "The terms are 5.2% annual percentage rate, interest only for the first 6 months. After that, the loan amortizes over 5 years. The collateral, of course, will be the single unencumbered asset." She slid a document across the table. It was the title for his 2018 Audi A4. "In the event of a default exceeding 30 days, she continued, "Archer and Wren reserves the immediate right to repossession of the asset. There will be no grace period beyond that." Rhett was practically vibrating, his leg bouncing under the table. He was ready to sign. Mila held up a hand. "And Ms. Wallace, your role? We require your signature. You are not a full co-signer on the debt. You will not be financially liable to Archer and Wren for the principal." This, I thought, was smart. This was safe. "However," she continued, "you will be our trusted third party. You will be copied on all financial statements, all communications, and all delinquency notices. Your association with this loan is the primary factor in our risk assessment. You are the reason we are sitting at this table. Is that understood?" It was a clever structure. I was not the bank. I was the firewall. I was the monitoring system. My reputation was the collateral, not my money. I nodded. "Understood." I signed. Rhett signed. The wire was initiated. And for the first 6 months, everything was perfect. Rhett was a whirlwind of energy. The workshop opened on time. The Instagram account he launched was a masterpiece of marketing all distressed wood. Warm, glowing light, and artistic close-ups of brass rivets and thick thread. He hit 2,500 followers in 90 days. He was featured in a local blogger's Old Town Finds list. He sent me one of the first wallets, a heavy rugged bifold stamped road dust. The leather was good. The stitching was decent. He was proud. He made his interest payments on time. Every single one. He texted me screenshots of his first online sales. "Knew we could do it, sis," he wrote. The text accompanied by a string of champagne bottle emojis. My parents were ecstatic. "See," Jolene said to me over Sunday dinner, her voice triumphant. All he ever needed was for someone to believe in him, a real chance. The rot began in month 7. It was subtle. It was the exact month the loan payments switched from interest only to principal and interest. The polished Instagram posts became less frequent. The texts from Rhett became vague. My, "How is the PL looking?" Emails were met with delays. Then came the excuses. They were, in themselves, plausible. Classic small business problems. First, it was the suppliers. "The price of good hide. Morgan, it's doubled. These tanneries are they're killing me. I had to find a new source." Then, it was logistics. My shipment of antique brass zippers. "They're stuck at the port in LA. I cannot finish the new handbag line. It's a disaster." Then, it was the market. "Tourist season is dead. I don't know what happened. It is like a ghost town out there. Everyone's broke." Excuses are just noise. Data is signal. As the trusted third party, I had read only access to the business checking account. Rhett had granted it as a sign of good faith in the beginning. I do not think he ever expected me to use it. He had certainly forgotten he gave it to me. One Thursday night, long after Piper was asleep, I logged in. I was not a forensic accountant, but I did not need to be. I am a security engineer. I find anomalies. The payments to the tannery were inconsistent. The shipping manifests were for small, insignificant amounts. But one expense line was ballooning digital advertising. He was dumping hundreds, then thousands, into Facebook and Instagram ads. I called him. "Rhett, why is your ad spend 3 times what you projected in the business plan? Your conversion rate must be catastrophic. He laughed. It was a high, tight, nervous sound. Morgan, 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 you do not get it. It's A/B testing. It's complex. You have to spend money to find the audience. You have to build the brand. You tech people should understand that. I am a tech person. I do understand A/B testing. I also understand that A/B testing without a control, a hypothesis, or a conversion metric is not testing. It is just spending. It is setting money on fire. While I watched Rhett's $75,000 venture start to hemorrhage, the old, familiar debit processed from my personal account. The first of the month, $2,200. The rent for Wayne and Jolene daily. Click, every month, for 8 years. The steady, automatic drip feed that kept the entire dysfunctional ecosystem alive. My reward for stability was to fund their instability. It was in the middle of all this that Piper started her craft club. She came home one day with a small, basic leatherworking kit I had ordered for her. She sat at our dining table, a scrap of leather on a cutting mat. She was not building a brand. She was not disrupting a market. She was just working. I would sit at my laptop, debugging a kernel panic, and I would hear the quiet tap, tap, tap of her small hammer. I watched her learn to thread a needle for a saddle stitch. I watched her painstakingly measure, cut, bevel, and burnish. Her process was quiet, methodical, and honest. She was learning the craft. The seeds of the entire collapse were right there, in plain black and white, long before the party. They were in the bank statements from Rhett's business account, showing an increasing number of ATM withdrawals at locations near downtown bars. They were in the rising ad spend, desperately chasing an audience that did not exist, and the complete lack of corresponding revenue. They were in the silence from Rhett, followed by the sudden, panicked cheerleading from my parents. And they were in the steady, relentless, $2,200 withdrawal every 30 days. From my account, the data was clear. The system was compromised. The breach was already in progress. The party was just the alarm. We were on a sprint review, a full-team video call, 98 participants on the grid. I was sharing my screen, walking my team through a security patch I had just pushed to production. I was demonstrating the new access control list, showing how the system now properly rejected an unauthenticated request. My desktop was clean. I am meticulous about my digital environment, but I had forgotten to enable Do Not Disturb in the upper right corner of my shared screen. A notification slid into view. It was from my bank. A simple, automated alert. Scheduled transfer to WJ Daily rent. Scheduled for 30th, $2,200. I kept talking, trying to click it away, but my mouse lagged. Hold up. M? It was Ray Collins. Her voice was tinny through my headset. Go back. Did that alert just say $2,200? My stomach went cold. I stopped clicking. The entire grid of faces stared at my screen. Just a reminder. Ray, I said, my voice betraying nothing. Now, if you look at this line of code, that looks like a rent payment. Morgan, Ray pushed. She was my code partner, my pandemic foxhole buddy. We had debugged catastrophic failures at 3 a.m. together. She had earned the right to be blunt. Christ, Wallace, are you funding the whole family? I clicked the alert closed, forcefully. It's just family logistics. Ray, complicated. It's handled. I took a breath and pointed my mouse back to the code repository. Anyway, back to the kernel exploit. The vulnerability was... I deflected. I moved on. But the moment hung in the virtual air. The professional firewall I had built between Morgan Wallace, senior engineer, and Morgan Wallace, family ATM, had just been breached. My colleagues had seen the data. I felt a hot, prickling shame that had nothing to do with the code and everything to do with the $2,200 transaction I could not justify. That night, the tension followed me home. It settled into my apartment, which was my one true sanctuary. Piper was at the dining table, sketching in her notebook. The apartment smelled like the lemon garlic chicken I was roasting. This was our safe space. Piper looked up from her homework, chewing on the end of her pencil. "Mom?" I said, pulling the roasting pan from the oven. "Why doesn't Uncle Rhett come over anymore? He used to come over all the time for dinner." I froze, my hands clenched in the oven mitts. The simple, honest question landed like a stone. How do you explain escalating financial malfeasance to a 15-year-old? How do you say, "Your uncle only visits when he needs something, and I have stopped giving it to him as freely"? You do not. You lie. "Oh, honey," I said, forcing a brightness into my voice that felt brittle. He is really, really busy, with the new workshop. He is busy building his dream." Piper looked down, unconvinced. "His dream seems loud and expensive." I had no answer for that. She was right. The lie, the vagueness I used to protect her, tasted like ash in my mouth. I was teaching her, by omission, that we must make ourselves small to accommodate the large, chaotic failures of men. The string tightened. A week later, the first official alarm bell rang. It was not a text from Rhett. It was an automated email from PNM, the Albuquerque Electric Company. It was addressed to the Workshops LLC, but I was copied on it. Second delinquency notice. The bill was $480.50. It was 30 days past due. Service disconnection scheduled for the 28th. I stared at the email. This was not a slow sales month. This was not high leather prices. This was a failure of basic operations. This was a utility. You pay the electric bill before you pay for anything else. My hands were shaking, but not with fear. It was a cold, precise anger. I pulled up the read-only access to the business checking account, the one he had given me as a show of transparency, the one he had clearly forgotten I monitored. I searched the transaction history. No payment to PNM, not last month, not this month. What I did find was a series of ATM withdrawals, $100, $300, another $150, all from a machine located inside a casino on the edge of town, and more recently, a series of charges at downtown bars. The Copper Flask. 2nd Street Brewery. I picked up my phone. I dialed. He answered on the third ring. His voice breezy. Loud music thumping in the background. "Morgs, hey, what's up?" "Rhett, I just got a disconnection notice from PNM for the workshop. It is over 30 days late." The music in the background quieted, as if he had turned his head. "What? No. That is impossible. I paid that. I swear I paid it." "The statement says you have not. Neither does the bank account." It must be a system error," he stammered, his voice losing its easy confidence. "Their billing portal is trash. Total trash. I will call them tomorrow. I will handle it. Do not worry. A system error. The universal excuse of the unprepared and the incompetent." "You have got music," I said, my voice flat. "Where are you?" "Oh, just a networking thing. For the business. Gotta press the flesh." I hung up. I did not bother to argue. Arguing with Rhett was like trying to debug a system by shouting at the monitor. I opened my laptop. I did not call PNM. I did not pay the bill. I opened my browser. I typed in Facebook. Rhett's profile was, as always, aggressively public. He was not just on Facebook. He was performing on Facebook. His latest post had been 1 hour ago. He had checked in, at the Copper Flask, the same bar from the bank statement. There was a photo. Rhett, grinning, his arm around 2 guys I did not recognize. He was holding up a rocks glass, his face flushed. The caption was a masterpiece of self-delusion. "Big things coming. Just landed a massive new workshop deal. Celebrating the grind with the crew. Always be closing artisan life. Boss moves entrepreneur." The grind. He was at a bar, spending the workshop's electricity money on whiskey, bragging about a fictitious deal, all while the lights were about to be shut off. I looked at the picture. I looked at the overdue utility bill. I looked at the casino withdrawals. I looked at the notification from my bank for my parents' rent. The picture was no longer just sad. It was data. It was evidence. My training took over. When a system is compromised, you do not engage the bad actor. You do not try to reason with the malware. You lock down the system, you document the breach, and you gather the logs. I did not comment. I did not like the post. I methodically began to archive. Right-click, save as, the photo from the bar, the caption, the timestamp. I went to his workshop's Instagram page and saved every product photo, every post bragging about hand-stitched quality, every 5-star review that looked suspiciously like it was written by one of his bar friends. I created a new, encrypted directory on my local drive. I named it Project Daily Audit. I downloaded the bank statements. I took screenshots of the PNM notice. I was not building a case for a lawyer. Not yet. I was documenting the exploit. In my world, you cannot fix a vulnerability until you understand exactly how the bad actor got in, what privileges they escalated, and what data they exfiltrated. He was not just failing, he was lying. He was stealing from me, from the agreement, from himself. I closed the browser and stared at my work terminal. I was supposed to be reviewing a pull request for a new feature. I could not focus. The code on my screen blurred. I am an engineer. We solve problems. We refactor. We rewrite bad code. I opened Jira, our corporate ticketing system. I went to my private project, the one I used for my own to-do lists. I created a new ticket. I left the assignee as Morgan Wallace in the summary field. I typed one task, refactor boundaries. In the description, I wrote, current system architecture is unstable. Legacy dependencies, Wayne, Jolene, Rhett are causing critical resource drain and cascading failures in primary Morgan. Piper systems. All non-essential services must be decoupled. Full audit and immediate access revocation required for all non-authenticated users. It was the clearest thought I had had in months. The data was in. The analysis was complete. The conclusion was unavoidable. I had to stop all of it. Not just Rhett's phantom contingency fund. I had to stop the autopay for my parents' rent. I had to stop the autopay for their internet. I had to terminate every single financial connection to an able-bodied adult who was complicit in this toxic, one-way transactional ecosystem. I pulled up my bank's website. My finger hovered over the Disable Autopay button for the $2,200 rent payment. I paused. I could see the chain reaction. This was not a simple code rollback. This was pulling the plug on the main server. The moment I did, the alarms would sound, the phones would ring. Jolene would be first. Her voice a high-pitched wail of manufactured tears and accusations. How could you? We'll be on the street after all we've done for you. Then Wayne, his voice thick with bourbon and self-righteous, wounded pride. You're ungrateful. You think you're better than us, with your fancy job. You're trying to destroy this family. You're just jealous of your brother's success. The shrapnel would hit Piper. They would use her. They would tell her I was cold, cruel, unnatural, a bad daughter, a bad mother. I was ready for the technical fallout. I was not. I realized, ready for the emotional one. I was not ready for the sheer, unrestrained spectacle of their by-dick, their family tragedy. I closed the browser tab. Not yet. I needed to be stronger. I needed to be ready for the inevitable hysteria. Rhett's 34th birthday party was in 3 days. I would wait. I would wait for one last, final, undeniable data point. I did not know. Then, that the data point would be a handmade leather tray. I did not know it would be my daughter's face, wiped clean of all emotion. But I knew, with the certainty of a failed integrity check, that it was coming. The string was pulled taut. It was vibrating. It just had not snapped yet. The laughter from my mother, Jolene, was a sharp, brittle sound that cut through the music. Oh, Rhett, you're terrible, she giggled, fanning her face as if he had just told a charmingly naughty joke. Wayne, my father, just frowned, his eyes sliding away from Piper to his beer bottle. He's just joking, Piper, he muttered, his voice thick. It's just, kids. Piper was 15, Rhett was 34. I looked at my father. at the moral cowardice that had defined my entire life with him, and I felt nothing. The system was not just broken, it was operating exactly as designed. It was designed to protect Rhett, to minimize his cruelty, and to absorb all costs. A cousin, one I barely knew, had her phone out. I saw the red recording light. She was filming, not Rhett's cruelty, but our reaction, or lack of one. A few seconds later, I saw her typing, a smug smile on her face. A moment after that, the family group chat, Daily Crew, which I kept permanently muted, lit up with a notification. I did not need to look. I knew. It would be a video of the incident, a clip of Rhett tossing the gift, with a caption full of laughing emojis. Rhett is savage LOL, poor Piper, public humiliation, repackaged as family entertainment. The storm had arrived, and I was ready for it. Then, Piper moved. She did not cry. She did not look at Rhett. She did not look at me. Her face was perfectly blank, her shoulders squared. She walked, with a slow, deliberate calm that shamed every adult at that table, to the overflowing trash bin. She did not flinch from the sticky paper plates or the wet beer cans. She reached in, her hand steady, and retrieved her leather tray. It was streaked with ketchup from a discarded napkin. She pulled a clean napkin from the table, walked back to her chair, and sat down, methodically. She wiped the ketchup off the leather. She dusted the grass clippings from the stamped design. She inspected the stitching on the corner where it had landed. Then, carefully, as if it were an object of great value, which it was, she tucked it into her shoulder bag and zipped the bag closed. She had rescued her work. She had refused to let it be defined as trash. That was it. That was the final data point. The breach was confirmed. The emotional cost had been calculated. The protocol was now clear. I remained seated, my phone still in my hand. I unlocked it. I went to my photo library. I selected the sharp, clear photo of Rhett's 2018 Audi A4, parked arrogantly on my father's lawn. I went to my screenshots. I selected the image of the $2,200 rent payment notification, scheduled for the 30th. I opened the Daily Crew group chat. The video was already there, just as I'd predicted. 37 haha reacts. I ignored it. I attached the two photos to a new message. The Audi, the rent. My thumbs were steady. I typed a simple caption. From today, everyone is responsible for themselves. I pressed send. For a second, there was only the sound of the thumping music and Rhett bragging about his next big move. Then, the digital bomb landed, one by one, like a chorus of angry insects. Phones began to buzz and ping all around the backyard. Heads snapped down. The cousins, the aunts, the uncles, my father, my mother, and Rhett. His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it, annoyed at the interruption. Then he looked again. His smile froze. The beer bottle stopped halfway to his lips. I watched the blood drain from his face. His eyes, wide and disbelieving, snapped across the yard and locked on mine. The music was still playing, but the party was over. The air crackled. Every face was turned towards me or their phone. "Morgan," Jolene whispered, her phone clutched in her hand. "What is this? This is a joke, right? This isn't funny." Rhett got to his feet. He walked over to my table, his movements stiff. He loomed over me, his face a mask of confusion and rage. "Are you kidding?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "Are you seriously kidding me right now, in front of everyone?" I did not answer. I did not flinch. I just looked at him. I gave him nothing. No anger, no tears, no argument. I was a gray rock. I was a closed port. I stood up. I picked up my purse. "Piper, we're leaving." Piper was already on her feet. She slung her bag over her shoulder, the rescued tray safe inside. "You cannot be serious," Rhett hissed. Grabbing my arm, I looked down at his hand on my bicep. I looked back up at his face. I said nothing. I just waited. His grip tightened for a second. Then, seeing the absolute zero in my eyes, he let go, as if he had been burned. "You're destroying this family. Morgan, my mother cried out, finally finding her script. She was on her feet, tears already welling. After everything we have done for you, you ungrateful? I turned my back on her. I turned my back on all of them. Piper was at my side. We walked across the patchy lawn, past the grill, past the smug cousin still holding her phone, and through the side gate. The sound of my mother's wailing and Rhett shouting my name followed us. But I did not look back. I closed the gate behind us. The latch clicked shut, a definitive, satisfying, mechanical sound. We got into my car. I started the engine, and the quiet interior was a sanctuary. The air conditioning hummed. I pulled away from the curb, the tires crunching on the gravel. We drove for 5 minutes in complete, blessed silence. The digital noise was still happening. My phone was vibrating in the cup holder, a relentless, furious buzzing. I ignored it. "Mom," Piper's voice was quiet. "Are you okay?" I reached over and put my hand on hers. Her skin was cool. I squeezed. "I'm fine, honey, and I'm serious." She squeezed my hand back. "I know, me too." We did not need to say anything else. When we got home, I did not pour a drink. I did not cry. I did not pace. I went to my desk. I sat down in my ergonomic chair. I woke up my workstation. 3 monitors glowed to life, bathing the room in blue light. The storm was here. It was time to secure the perimeter. First, I logged into my bank. I navigated to scheduled payments. The $2,200 payment to Wayne and Jolene's landlord. I did not just disable it. I deleted the payee. I deleted the entire recurring transfer. Next, their internet bill, $119.99, deleted. Their water bill, a pass-through I paid, deleted. The contingency transfer to Rhett's business account, deleted. I went through 8 years of financial settlement, every automated family help transaction, and I killed them, one by one. Click, delete, confirm. My phone was still buzzing. I picked it up. 58 new messages in daily crew, 19 missed calls, 7 voicemails. I powered the phone completely off. Then, I opened my personal email. The account I used for legal and financial matters. I had an email from Mila Hart at Archer and Wren Capital. It had arrived at 4:57 p.m., just before I had left for the party. Subject, final notice. Delinquency on loan. I opened it. The language was cold, precise, and perfect. Dear Ms. Wallace, this email is to formally notify you, as the trusted third party, that the loan associated with Daily Leatherworks LLC has now exceeded the 30-day delinquency threshold as specified in Section 4.b of the agreement. Our attempts to contact Mr. Daly on the 10th, 15th, and 25th of this month have been unsuccessful. As of this notice, the loan is in default. Archer and Wren Capital is exercising its rights under Section 5A. We have scheduled a repossession of the collateral asset 2018 Audi A4 VIN 9B8 for tomorrow at 10 a.m. Your role as guarantor is noted, and this is for your records only. No action is required from you. Regards, Mila Hart. Asset Management. Archer Wren Capital. He was already in default. He had been lying, not just to me, but to everyone, for weeks. The electricity bill was just the tip of the iceberg. He had not made a loan payment, not one. I was not the one destroying him. He was already destroyed. I had just stopped being his shield. I had just stopped paying for the privilege of being lied to. I clicked print. My laser printer whirred to life. I went to my file cabinet. I pulled out a new, empty manila folder. I took a black Sharpie and wrote on the tab. In clear, all caps block letters, boundaries. I took the email from Mila Hart, hot from the printer. I clipped it inside. I found the original loan agreement I had signed 18 months ago. I clipped it in. I found the printouts of the PNM bill, clipped, the screenshots of his Facebook post, clipped, the bank statements from his business account, the ones showing the casino withdrawals, clipped, clipped, clipped. I was building my log. I was documenting the exploit. I heard a small sound from the dining room. I looked over. Piper was at the table. She had her small craft kit open. The overhead light shone on her dark hair. She had her leather tray, and she was fixing it. She had a needle, threaded with thick, waxed cord. She had cut the damaged stitches at the corner where it had hit the bin. Her movements were slow, focused, and precise. In, out, pull tight. She was not crying. She was not angry. She was restitching the seam, making it stronger than it had been before. I watched her for a full minute. My daughter, my brave, resilient, quiet daughter. She did not need me to fight her battles. She just needed me to stop funding the enemy. I went back to my desk, my resolve now absolute. I turned my phone back on, put it on silent, and placed it face down. I had work to do. The storm was here, and I was the one who had built the shelter, and I was the only one who held the keys. 9:58 in the morning. I was at my workstation, but I was not working for Mirage Scale Labs. I had a browser window open, pointed at a low-resolution, public access traffic camera feed for the Old Town Plaza. The timestamp in the corner clicked to 9:59 a.m., right on schedule. A heavy-duty flatbed tow truck, marked Desert Valley Recovery, turned the corner. It stopped, blocking the street, directly in front of the Daily Leatherworks storefront. The shop door burst open, and Rhett spilled out onto the sidewalk. He was not the confident entrepreneur from the party. He was a man in a panic. His hair was uncombed, and he was still wearing the same shirt from last night. He had his phone jammed against his ear, and I could see his mouth moving, his body language frantic. He was yelling, pacing in tight, aggressive circles. He gestured wildly at the truck driver, who remained impassive, holding a clipboard. The driver and his partner were not interested in the drama. They had a work order. They were professionals. They backed the flatbed up, the alarm beeping, and one of them efficiently attached the winch hooks to the undercarriage of the Audi A4. Rhett was screaming into his phone. I presumed he was on the line with Mila Hart, or perhaps trying and failing to get through to me. It did not matter. He was a user with revoked credentials. A small crowd of tourists, holding coffee cups and phones, had stopped to watch. They were filming the spectacle. The winch motor whined, a high mechanical sound I could only imagine, and the Audi, his primary collateral, his last totem of success, was dragged unceremoniously from its parking spot. It scraped the curb with a jolt. I timed it on my watch. From the moment they parked to the moment the car was secured on the flatbed, 3 minutes and 14 seconds. They were good at their job. The truck pulled away, and Rhett just stood on the sidewalk, his phone finally dropping to his side. He looked small and utterly defeated. I closed the browser tab. An email from Mila Hart arrived at 10:30 a.m. It was a masterpiece of corporate finality. Subject asset secured. Loan 774D Ms. Wallace. This message is to confirm that the collateral asset 2018 Audi A4 was repossessed at 10:04 a.m. this morning. The asset is being transported to our holding facility. An online auction will be open to our dealer network within 24 hours. As per Archer Wren policy, this will be a no-reserve auction to expedite recovery. All proceeds will be applied to the outstanding principal, accrued interest, and all recovery and legal fees. A full accounting will be provided to all parties. Please be advised, Archer Wren Capital will be filing for a deficiency judgment and applying for a writ of garnishment against any known sources of income for Mr. Daly, present or future, to the maximum extent allowed by New Mexico state law. Regards, Mila Hart. I read it twice. The key phrases, no reserve auction, deficiency judgment, writ of garnishment. The car was worth perhaps $28,000, at best. The loan was for $75,000, plus a mountain of penalties and interest. The deficiency, the amount he would still owe after the sale, would be catastrophic. And Mila Hart was now legally empowered to hunt for every dollar he ever earned. This was not my revenge. This was not emotion. This was the logical, contractual consequence of default. This was the system, which he had tried to exploit, finally executing its error correction protocols. Now, I turned to my own systems. The night before, I had revoked access. Today, I was doing a full audit. I logged into my primary checking account, my savings, my credit cards. I went through every scheduled payment, every authorized user. The $2,200 rent payment for Wayne and Jolene deleted. The $119 internet and cable bill I had been paying for them, I logged into the provider and canceled the service under my name. If they wanted internet, they could acquire it themselves. The city utility bill, water, sewer, trash, which I had taken over 3 years ago when they forgot and were threatened with a lien. I called the city. I executed a transfer of service, reverting all financial responsibility back to the residents at that address. Will this result in a disconnection? I asked the clerk. Yes, ma'am. If a new account isn't opened by a resident within 48 hours, she said, her voice bored. Thank you. That is all the information I need. Then I went to my credit cards. My mother, Jolene, was still an authorized user on my oldest Visa. It was meant for emergencies only. I checked the statement. The last 3 months showed a $60 charge at a nail salon, a $140 charge at an online clothing boutique, and dozens of small charges at Starbucks. These were not emergencies. This was a parasitic attachment. I navigated to the account management portal. I clicked on her name. I clicked Deactivate Card. A pop-up asked for a reason. Lost. Stolen. Other. I selected Other. A confirmation appeared. Her card was now a useless piece of plastic. I had shut every valve. I had deauthorized every user. The perimeter was secure. The digital backlash was, as expected. A study in escalation. My phone, which I had put on silent, was a log file of Rhett's degenerating mental state. The 24-hour transformation was fascinating. 10:14 p.m. Last night to the threats. You are a cold-hearted bitch. You just wait. You are going to regret this. Mom is hysterical. I hope you are happy. You just destroyed your own family. 9:57 a.m. This morning. As the truck arrived, the panic. Morgan, call me. A tow truck is here. Call me now. They are hooking my car. This is not a joke. Call them. Tell them it is a mistake. 10:35 a.m. After the repossession, the bargaining. Okay. You win. You made your point. Now fix this. Please. You are the only one who can. Call them. I will pay you back. I swear I will. 2:00 p.m. After his cards were declined at lunch, I assumed the begging. Morgan, please, I am begging you. They are going to be homeless. Mom and Dad. Is that what you want? Just turn the rent back on. Just for 1 month. We can talk about the rest. Please. I am so sorry. I am sorry for everything. Just please call me. I read every message. My face impassive. They were data. They were the predictable output of a failed script. I took screenshots of the threatening texts. I did not reply. Instead, I set up a new, dedicated email address, an address that existed only to be an archive. I sent one final, single message to Rhett, Wayne, and Jolene from my primary email. Subject Future Communication Protocol. All future correspondence regarding financial or legal matters must be conducted in writing via email to this new address. Morgan, Wallace, Legal, Logmail.com. I will not be answering calls or text messages. All relevant parties, including legal counsel, will have access to this log. This is the final communication I will initiate on this matter. Then, I blocked their numbers from my phone. I created an email filter that automatically forwarded any message from their known accounts to the new log address. Unread by me, I was air-gapped. Piper came home from school at 3:30. The house was quiet. She looked at me, sitting at the dining room table, my laptop closed. She could feel the change in the atmosphere. The chronic, low-grade tension that had been our roommate for years was gone. She sat down and took out her homework. I want to make another one, she said quietly, not looking at me. The valet tray. I waited. Not for him, she said. her voice sharp with contempt. But I liked making it. I was thinking, maybe I could make one for someone worthy, like Ray, or maybe for your dad's birthday. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. She stopped sketching. "Honey," I said, my voice very clear and very soft, "you do not ever have to look for someone worthy of your work. You just need to make things for people who respect your effort, and the first person on that list is always, always you." She looked at me, a long, searching look. Then she smiled. It was small, but it was real. "Okay, then maybe I will just make this one for me." That evening, I did one last piece of due diligence. I paid $39.95 for a full, updated credit risk report on Rhett Daly. As a guarantor on the original loan, I had a permissible purpose. The report loaded as a PDF. It was even worse than I thought. In the last 3 months, the exact same period, he was defaulting on the $75,000 loan he had applied for and opened 2 new, high-interest credit cards. He had also applied for a $2,000 payday loan, which had been denied. His credit utilization was at 98%. He was not just failing, he was desperately trying to dig new holes, to find new hosts. He was a pattern, a virus seeking a vulnerability. I printed the report. I walked to my file cabinet. I opened the manila folder labeled Boundaries. I slipped the credit report inside. Behind the notice from Mila Hart, I took a black pen and wrote on the top margin of the report, "Pattern of overextension." I closed the drawer. The investigation was complete. The documentation was secure. It was the third night of my new, air-gapped silence. The phone was off. The email filters were working. The apartment, for the first time in years, felt entirely my own. Piper was asleep, her door slightly ajar. I was in my living room, reading a technical journal on zero-trust architecture. The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the quiet shush of the air conditioning. Then, the peace was shattered. A heavy, frantic pounding exploded against the front door. It was not a knock. It was a physical assault. Boom! 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 "Morgan, I know you're in there. Open this damn door." Rhett's voice. It was not the voice of the charming entrepreneur or the panicked victim. This was a voice I had not heard in years. A voice from his darkest high school days, thick with alcohol, shredded by rage. Boom! "You think you can do this? You think you can just cut me off? I'll kill you. Morgan, you hear me?" Piper's door creaked. "Mom." Her voice was thin, terrified. "Stay in your room. Honey, lock your door. It's okay. I am handling it." My voice was calm. It did not shake. I did not move toward the door. I did not yell back. I picked up my phone from the coffee table and opened the Ring app. The camera feed flooded my screen. It was Rhett. His face, distorted by the fisheye lens, was pressed close to the camera. His eyes wild and bloodshot. He was swaying. He drew back his fist and hammered the door again. I swiped up, my thumb steady, and dialed 911. The dispatcher's voice was robotic. 911, what is your emergency?" I kept my voice low, but clear, a perfect audio log. "My name is Morgan Wallace. My address is 214. My adult brother, Rhett Daly, is intoxicated and attempting to break down my front door. He is threatening to kill me. I am inside and safe with my minor child. He is on my porch. My security camera is active and recording him. I need police assistance immediately." "Are you safe, ma'am?" "We are secure inside the apartment. He is outside. He is violent." "Officers are being dispatched. Ma'am, stay on the line." I stayed on the line, listening to the dispatcher's calm questions while Rhett continued to bellow, his threats dissolving into a slurred, incoherent string of curses. He kicked the door, his boots striking the wood with a dull thud. In the background of my apartment, I heard the faint click of Piper's bedroom door locking. Good girl. Within 4 minutes, the red and blue lights of a patrol car washed over my living room wall, painting the room in silent, strobing colors. I saw them on the Ring feed. 2 officers, calm and methodical, emerged from their car. Rhett, seeing them, seemed to deflate. His rage momentarily sputtered, replaced by drunken confusion. I heard the muffled, deep voices of the officers. "Sir, step away from the door. Sir, put your hands where I can see them." Rhett's response was a slurred string of, "She's my sister. She stole. She's—" I terminated the call with the dispatcher. I watched the ring feed as they cuffed him. They were not gentle. He was not a grieving brother. He was a disturbance. He was an intoxicated, violent man threatening a single mother and her child. That was the only data they needed. One of the officers came to the door. "Ma'am, this is APD. You can open the door." I opened it. Just a crack. The chain still on. I looked at the officer. He was young, his face professional. "He's in custody," the officer said. "He'll be spending the night in detox. My partner is running his name. Has he done this before?" "Never this bad. He has been harassing me financially for years. I cut him off 3 days ago." "Do you want to file a report?" "Yes," I said. "And I want to know, first thing in the morning, how to file a restraining order." The officer nodded. He understood. This was not a family drama to him. It was a domestic incident. "You can come down to the station tomorrow. I will put a note in the file. We'll keep a car in the area for the rest of the night." "Thank you." I closed the door. I locked the deadbolt. I engaged the chain. The next morning, I was at the courthouse at 8 a.m. I am an engineer. I respect a process. I filled out the forms. I documented the history, the $75,000 loan, the default, the repossession, the party, the threats, and finally, the video from my Ring camera of last night's incident. I did not have to cry. I did not have to plead. I just presented the data. By 11 a.m., a temporary restraining order was signed by a judge, 200 yards, no contact, no phone, no email, no text, no third-party messages. Rhett would be served the papers when he was released from the drunk tank. If he came within 200 yards, he would be immediately arrested. I had used the legal system as it was designed to be used as a firewall. The second attempt was more subtle. It came 2 days later. We no longer had a landline, not really, but I kept a voice-over IP box for emergencies, a static number for forms. It rarely rang. On Wednesday evening, it rang. The sound was jarring. Piper and I both looked at it. The caller ID was unknown. I picked it up. "Hello?" Silence. Just the dead, hollow air of an open line. Then, a click. They had hung up. My skin crawled. It was a classic escalation. A test. An attempt to breach the new quiet. I called the non-emergency police line. I reported the call. The officer was skeptical until I explained the restraining order. "It's likely a violation, ma'am, but with an unknown caller, there's not much we can do." "I understand," I said. "But my phone service is digital. I can pull the logs. Can you—" He paused. "Let me check." He came back 5 minutes later. "Okay, our tech guys say the call was routed from a public payphone, one at a gas station on Central. That's all we can get. It's not enough to prove it was him." "I do not need you to prove it," I said. "I just need you to file a report. I need a record that on this date, at this time, a call from an untraceable public phone was placed to my number, in violation of a no-contact order. I need it for the log." The officer, hearing the change in my voice, agreed. "Yes, ma'am, I can do that. I'll add it to the incident file." I hung up and added my own note to the boundaries folder. That night, I did what I should have done months ago. I went to the hardware store and bought a new smart lock, a high-end one with a keypad and a biometric scanner. I spent an hour installing it. I loved the feel of the tools in my hand, the satisfying snick of the new deadbolt sliding into the reinforced strike plate I'd installed years ago. When it was done, I configured the access protocols: Morgan Wallace role admin, full rights, biometric and code access, Piper Wallace role user. Code access only, restricted to daytime hours when I was not home. An alert would be sent to my phone every time her code was used. Guest role temporary. I could generate a one-time code that expired in an hour. I deleted the old, physical key system entirely. There were no more copies floating around. Not with Wayne, not with Jolene. Piper watched me do it. She watched me test the keypad. That night, for the first time, she asked me to leave her door open. And, Mom, can we plug in the yellow light? It was a small, warm yellow nightlight we had not used since she was 6. It was not bright, just a soft, comforting glow. She was feeling the tremors. The violence at the door had scared her. Of course, honey, I plugged it in. The warm light spilled into the hallway. She slept with that light on for 3 weeks, and then, one night, she plugged in her phone and did not plug in the light. The next morning, I put it back in the closet. The tremors had passed. She was secure. The next day, I took a screenshot from the Ring video, a clear, if unflattering, image of Rhett's enraged face. I sent it to my next-door neighbor, a quiet woman named Mrs. Petrov, who ran our small building's neighborhood watch email group. My note was simple. This is my brother, Rhett. He is the subject of a restraining order and is not permitted at this property. If you see him, please do not engage. Just call APD. Thank you. The response was not emotional. It was not pitying. It was, like everything else in my new life, procedural. Thank you. Morgan, Mrs. Petrov emailed back, CCing the group. Photo logged and saved. Will add to watch list. I sat at my desk. Looking at the boundaries folder, I took out a fresh sticky note. I wrote a new checklist, my new personal code of conduct, and I stuck it to my monitor. Do not text back. Do not answer calls. Do not argue. Do not engage. Only work with authorities and paperwork. The log is your only voice. The house was our safe zone. The violence, the drama, the financial collapse, all of it was an external problem, like a storm happening miles away. I was handling it. I was managing the risk, but I was no longer letting the storm inside. The quiet in our apartment was different now. It was not the fragile, fearful silence of waiting for the next phone call, the next crisis. It was the solid, heavy, protected silence of a system in lockdown. For the first time, our quiet had the distinct, unmistakable sound of self-respect. I had rebuilt my personal perimeter. I had secured my home, my child, and my finances. I had, in my professional language, segmented my network. I foolishly believed the attacks would stop. I was wrong. The bad actors did not give up. They just changed their vector of attack. My workplace, Mirage Scale Labs, is not a downtown office. It is a sprawling modern tech campus on the Mesa, all brushed steel, solar panels, and drought-resistant landscaping. It is a place of quiet, intense focus. It is my other sanctuary. It is the place where I am not Morgan, daughter and sister, but Wallace, senior engineer. On a Tuesday, at 5:03 p.m., I was walking out of the main building with Ray Collins. We were deep in a debate about the merits of a new encryption standard. The sun was setting, casting long, sharp shadows across the concrete, and standing right at the edge of the private walkway, where the campus met the public visitor parking, were my parents. They were not there to talk. They were on display. Jolene was holding a large, flimsy piece of poster board, the kind from a drugstore. On it, in thick, black, dripping Sharpie, were 3 words: ungrateful, heartless daughter. Wayne was standing next to her, his arms crossed, his face set in a mask of righteous, boozy indignation. He was not holding a sign. He was the silent, glowering muscle. My stomach did not drop. I did not feel shame. I felt a cold, clinical weariness. They had breached the final firewall. Ray stopped dead. "Oh, shit," she breathed, her eyes wide. "Morgan, is that?" "Yes," I said, my voice flat. I did not stop walking. I did not slow down. I kept my gaze forward, walking a path that would take me past them, but not to them. "Morgan, Jolene's voice was not a plea. It was a performance, a loud, wailing accusation for the benefit of my colleagues, the ones walking to their cars. "Morgan, how can you do this to us? Your own mother and father, we will be on the street. Look at me. Look what you are doing." I did not look. I kept walking. As I passed, Wayne stepped forward. "You think you're too good for us now," he spat, his voice thick. He was standing on company property. A small embedded plaque in the concrete read, "Mirage Scale Labs, private campus, no public access." Before I even had to break stride, a voice, polite and firm, cut through the air. Sir, I need you to step back." Two corporate security guards, in their crisp, professional uniforms, were there. They had not come from the building. They had come from their own security hub. They had been watching. My company had been watching. "This is private property, sir," the first guard said. He was a big man, but his tone was one of patient customer service. "You cannot be here. That is my daughter." Wayne jabbed a finger, not at me, but at the guard. "This is a family matter." "I understand that, sir, but you still cannot be here. This is the property line." The guard pointed with his flashlight to a barely visible seam in the concrete. "The public sidewalk is over there, by the road. You are welcome to stay there. You cannot be on this walkway. You are trespassing." Jolene started to wail. "She is having us arrested, our own daughter." "No one is being arrested, ma'am," the guard said, his patience wearing thin. "We are asking you to move to the public sidewalk. If you refuse, we will have to call APD. If you return to this side of the line, we will issue a formal trespass warning." My parents, faced with a calm, neutral authority that was not emotionally invested in their drama, did not know what to do. They were bullies, and their tactics had no effect on a paid professional. Defeated, they shuffled back, past the plaque, to the strip of dusty public sidewalk. The second guard, a woman, looked at me. "Ms. Wallace, are you all right? Would you like an escort to your vehicle?" "No, thank you," I said, my voice steady. "I am fine, but I would like a copy of the incident log and the security footage, if possible." She nodded, her face impasse, typeo. "I will have my supervisor email it to you." I got to my car. Ray slid into the passenger seat, her face pale. "Morgan, Jesus, that was next level. Are you okay?" I started the car. "I am not angry. Ray, I am not even sad. I am just documenting." When I got home, the email from campus security was already in my inbox, a link to a high-definition, time-stamped video of the entire encounter. Wayne stepping onto the property, Jolene holding the sign, the guards professional, calm intervention. I downloaded the file. I named it Mirage Scale Incident 01.mp4. I forwarded the email, with the video file attached, to one address, HR Support Mirage Scale, com. My message was brief. Subject Workplace Harassment Incident, W. J. Daly. To the HR team, my estranged parents, Wayne and Jolene Daly, appeared on campus at 5:03 p.m. today, creating a public disturbance at the main exit. They were targeting me personally. Security footage is attached. This is an escalation of a private matter that has now breached my professional environment. I am writing to document the incident, as I expect their behavior to continue. Please advise on corporate protocol. Thank you. Morgan Wallace, Senior Security Engineer. The response, 9 minutes later, was not from HR. It was from the legal department. Ms. Wallace, thank you for proactively documenting this. We are so sorry you had to experience this. The company takes the safety and security of its employees and the protection of its workplace extremely seriously. Your parents' actions constitute workplace harassment. Regardless of their relationship to you, a formal cease and desist letter is being drafted by our outside counsel. It will be sent via courier and certified mail to their last known address, instructing them to cease all contact with you on or near company property. Any further attempt to enter the campus or harass you or your colleagues will be met with immediate legal action and APD intervention. Your file is being noted by HR, and we are placing a temporary alert with campus security. Please do not hesitate to use the internal panic button on your desk phone if you feel unsafe. I stared at the email. This was the difference. This was a functional system. My family saw a problem and poured gasoline on it. My company saw a problem, thanked me for the data, and immediately deployed a firewall and a legal team. As predicted, the letter did not work. 2 weeks later, on a Friday, they were back. This time, they did not bring signs. They just sat in their car in the visitor lot, waiting. They did not get to wait long. An alert from the license plate reader at the gate had already flagged their car. Before I even knew they were there, security had surrounded their vehicle. They were issued a permanent lifetime ban from the Mirage Scale campus, and a copy of the trespass order was filed directly with the Albuquerque Police Department. Jolene, blocked by the law and corporate security, turned to the only avenue she had left the court of public opinion. She took to Facebook. It was not a subtle post. It was a long, rambling, typo-filled public letter. She tagged me. She tagged Mirage Scale Labs. She tagged cousins, aunts, and people I had not seen since I was 10. She painted a masterpiece of victimhood. She wrote about her cold, cruel daughter, poisoned by money and a fancy tech job. She wrote about how I had abandoned them, how I had stolen my brother's future. She carefully omitted the $75,000 loan. She claimed I was trying to destroy the family out of spite. She finished with a flourish, claiming they were about to be thrown onto the street by their own flesh and blood, and did not know where their next meal was coming from. The comments were a waterfall of sympathy and outrage, all directed at me. Jolene, this is horrible. I am praying for you. I cannot believe a child could do this to their parents. That Morgan always was stuck up. My phone, which I had started turning on again, lit up. But it was not Rhett. It was my HR manager, a sharp woman named Anita. Morgan, she said, her voice all business. I am looking at a public Facebook post that is concerning. First, are you safe? I am safe, I said. It is just noise. It is not just noise when it tags your employer, Anita said curtly. This is a public defamation of both you and the company. I am logging it. I am taking screenshots, and I am adding it to the legal file. I am also placing a high-security flag on your internal employee file. No one can access your personal information, your address, your salary, your benefits without a two-factor override from me and a VP. This is now a corporate security issue. I was stunned. Thank you, Anita. Do not thank me, she said. This is procedure. We protect our assets. Go back to work. The noise was everywhere now. While Jolene was waging her social media war, the real, physical consequences were landing. A cousin I had not spoken to in a decade, the same one who had filmed Piper, sent me a photo. It was a 3-day pay or quit notice, the official eviction warning, taped to my parents' front door. The $2,200 payment I had not made was now a legal crisis. The caption from my cousin was simple, "Happy now." I did not reply. I saved the image to my boundaries folder. I labeled it Landlord Notice, JPG. Then, the final, predictable shoe dropped, the GoFundMe. It was started by an aunt. The narrative was pure fiction, a work of art. It described Wayne's failing health, he had mild gout, and Jolene's fragile nerves. It claimed a sudden, tragic, and unexplained financial cutoff had left them on the brink of homelessness. It was asking for $10,000. The GoFundMe link was the new weapon. It was shared, reshared, and posted in the comments of Jolene's original smear post. I sat at my desk, looking at the link. I could report it. I could fight it. I could post my boundaries folder, the loan agreement, the PNM bill, the casino withdrawals, the bar photos, the ring video, and end this all. But I would not. Fighting in the mud with them was still fighting. My silence was not passive. It was a legal and strategic position. They were creating a public, permanent, time-stamped record of their own lies. I just archived. I saved the GoFundMe link. I saved the screenshots of the donations. I saved the fawning, supportive comments. I added them all to the log. That night, Piper was quiet. She was doing her homework. The house silent except for our 2 keyboards. "Mom," she asked, her voice small. Are Grandma and Grandpa going to be okay?" I stopped typing. This was the one question that mattered. This was the one line of code that could still make my whole system crash. I turned in my chair to face her. "Piper," I said, my voice gentle but firm, "I do not know if they are going to be okay. But I know this, they are adults, and adults have choices. They are making theirs, and we are making ours." She looked at me, her eyes searching my face, not for a promise, but for stability. "Okay," she said, "just okay." She understood. She turned back to her math. I was not playing their game. I was not responding to the Facebook posts. I was not donating to the Go Save My Parents from the Consequences of Their Actions Fund. I was sitting in my secure apartment, with my secure daughter, working at my secure job. Everything they were doing was happening out in the open, in the full light of day, and so was everything I was doing. It was all legal, it was all documented, and it was all in the light. The eviction notice was not a bluff. The GoFundMe, I heard through the digital grapevine, raised just enough for a deposit and perhaps 2 weeks' rent. Not on an apartment, on a room. They landed at the Motel Suncrest, one of those long, low buildings on the access road of the I-25, the kind of place where the paint is perpetually peeling and the vacancy sign is always lit, buzzing a desperate neon red against the highway. I knew this not because I drove by, but because my aunt, the one who started the GoFundMe, began a new social media campaign, posting passive-aggressive updates about the saints who were dropping off casseroles at the motel office. She tagged me in every post. I did not read them, but the subject lines filled my filtered log email account. Their cash, I knew, was thinning like old cotton. The public performance of poverty was their last, desperate attempt at an exploit, and Rhett, the repossession and the deficiency judgment had wiped him out. The workshop, I learned, had been padlocked by the landlord for non-payment of rent before the party. The Audi was just the last, most visible domino. He was no longer Rhett Daly, artisan entrepreneur. He was, according to a cousin's Instagram story, which Ray sent me with the caption, FYI, a gig worker. He was driving a battered, early 2000s Honda Civic, one he had borrowed from a bar friend. He was trying to deliver food, DoorDash, Grubhub. The cousin's video was brief, filmed from a car window, showing Rhett arguing with a fast food worker over a missing drink. I did the math in my head. A car that old, probably getting 20 miles to the gallon. The current price of gas versus the average $2 tip. He was likely breaking even, at best. He was churning, burning gas to make just enough money to buy more gas. It was a perfect, closed loop of failure. While their world was shrinking, ours was expanding, or perhaps just solidifying. In the quiet of our apartment, Piper was building. She had moved on from the leather tray. She had discovered a new medium wood. For weeks, she had been working on a project, funded by her allowance and a small bonus I gave her for acing her physics midterm. It was a jewelry box for her best friend's birthday, not a simple, nailed-together thing. She was doing it properly. She had bought a small block of aromatic cedar and a set of Japanese handsaws. She had taken over the dining room table. I would come home from work to find her, pencil tucked behind her ear, brow furrowed in concentration. She was cutting dovetail joints. I watched her, night after night, as she practiced on scrapwood, the tiny, precise cuts, the test fitting, the quiet frustration when a joint was too loose, and the small, satisfied exhale when it was perfect. She was learning the physics of tension and compression, the necessity of patience. She was learning that a tight, gapless fit was not a miracle. It was the result of meticulous planning and flawless execution. When she was finished, she sanded it by hand, starting with a coarse grit and moving to one so fine it felt like velvet. She finished it with tongue oil, and the scent of cedar and oil filled the apartment, a clean, earthy, honest smell. She presented the final box to me. The dovetail joints were perfect. You could not slide a piece of paper between them. The lid slid open with a whisper-smooth shh. It was a beautiful, complex, sturdy object. It was the physical manifestation of her focus. "It's perfect, Piper," I said, my voice thick. She just nodded, proud. "I know. The tolerances are tight. It will last." At work, my own world was also solidifying. The refactor boundaries ticket I had written in my private JIRA had become a real-world reorganization. My focus, now that it was not being bled dry by a constant stream of familial emergencies, was absolute. I dove into the most complex problem. My team at Mirage Scale had a new, predictive threat modeling system. I worked late, not because I was escaping, but because I was building. I was in the code, my mind clear. My work did not go unnoticed. Anita, my HR manager, called me into her office. I felt a brief, phantom spike of adrenaline, a call from HR, but her face was all business. "Morgan," she said, sliding a letter across her desk, "this is not a discussion. This is a notification. Your VP, your director, and I have all been watching your work on the new threat modeling project, effective the 1st of next month. Your title is changing." I read the letter. Senior Security Engineer was being replaced with Principal Security Architect. It came with a 15% pay increase. "And," she continued, "more importantly, your employee stock option plan. The board just approved a new vesting schedule based on performance. Your new title puts you in a different bracket. Your next block of shares is vesting, now." It was a significant, life-altering amount of money. Not a loan, not a gift. It was equity. I had earned it. I had built it. The noise from the outside world did not stop. It just stopped mattering. My phone's log file continued to fill with the quiet desperation of my relatives. The GoFundMe had stalled. The Facebook posts had grown stale. The narrative was shifting. The whispers I heard had changed. It was no longer, "Poor Jolene." It was, "Morgan's so stuck up now. She forgot where she came from. She thinks she's better than everyone." I almost laughed when Ray texted me the latest rumor. "Heard you've forgotten your roots," she wrote. "Good. Your roots were a toxic mess. Your boundaries are clear. That's not being cold. That's just healthy love. Wallace. Healthy love for yourself and your kid." She was right. The silence in my apartment was the proof. That Friday night, Piper and I did not go out. We ordered pizza and dumped a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle onto the coffee table. It was a complex, starry night sky. All blues and blacks. We sat for hours, our heads bent. The only sound the quiet click of a piece finding its home. There were no vibrations from my phone. No frantic texts. No voicemails filled with rage or false tears. And for the first time I could remember, I realized what was missing. It was the pre-dawn anxiety, the low-grade, constant hum of dread. For 8 years, I had woken up around 3 or 4 in the morning, a knot in my stomach, my mind already calculating, did the rent payment clear? Will that leave me short for the utility bill? Did Rhett's contingency check bounce? That was gone. The automatic draft, the financial hemorrhage that pulled money from my account while I slept, was gone. The silence in the house was not just emotional. It was financial. It was the deep, profound peace of an account that is no longer being drained. I started a new habit. I started running. Every morning, before the sun, I would wake up, lace my shoes, and head out onto the dark, quiet streets. It was just me and the sound of my own feet on the pavement. At first, it was a struggle, but I am an engineer. I broke it down. A problem of endurance. I focused on my breathing. In for 4 steps, out for 4 steps. A steady, reliable cadence. A binary rhythm. In, out, on, off. My breath, I realized, was like code running without errors. A clean loop, stable, predictable, and strong. I was building a new kind of endurance. One night, about a month after the party, I was reading in bed. Piper came into my room. She had been in the bathroom, brushing her teeth. "Good night, Mom," she said. She paused in the doorway. I looked up. "Good night, honey. Sleep well," she smiled. A small, genuine smile. "I think I will." She turned and walked down the hall to her room. I heard her plug in her phone, and then nothing. I waited. I realized what I had not heard. I had not heard the small click of her plugging in the yellow nightlight. I got up and looked down the hallway. Her door was closed, and the sliver of light underneath it was dark. I went to her door and knocked softly. "Pipes." The door opened. She was in her pajamas, her face scrubbed clean. "Yeah." "The light," I said, pointing to the wall socket where the nightlight used to be. She looked. "Oh, yeah. I do not think I need it anymore." She looked back at me, her eyes clear. "I think we're okay." The words settled in the quiet hallway. Not, "I'm okay," but, "We're okay." She had rebuilt her own security. I nodded, my throat tight. I reached out and tucked a piece of hair behind her ear. "Yeah, honey," I said, my voice soft. We are okay in kindness, and we are okay in boundaries." She smiled. "Good night, Mom." "Good night, Piper." I went back to my room, the silence complete. It was the 31st day, and the fear was finally gone. The digital silence was so complete that the arrival of a physical object felt like a gunshot. It came on a Saturday, tucked into the junk mail, a plain white envelope, addressed to Morgan, in a spidery, desperate scrawl I knew immediately. It was Rhett's handwriting. It had no return address. My heart did not pound. My hands did not shake. The restraining order covered mail. But I knew he would try this. This was a classic probe. A see if this port is open attempt. I did not open it in the hallway. I brought it inside, placed it on my desk, and went to the kitchen to make coffee. I let it sit for a full hour. An inert, paper bomb. Piper saw it. "What's that?" "A letter from your uncle," I said. "The restraining order says he can't do that." She was a fast learner. "I know. That's why I'm going to document it before I open it." I put on a pair of disposable gloves. I took a photo of the sealed envelope. I used a letter opener, slicing the top edge cleanly. I photographed the contents, a single piece of notebook paper, torn from a spiral. I dumped it onto my desk, never touching the paper itself. The letter was a masterpiece of emotional manipulation. He was not angry. He was contrite, falsely contrite. "Morgan, I know you hate me. I get it. I messed up. I know I did. But I'm not writing for me. I'm writing for Dad. His health it's not good. Morgan, it's really bad. That gout. It's not just his foot anymore. The doctors are worried about his kidneys. He's not sleeping. Mom just cries all day at that motel. They can't take much more of this. I'm not asking for money. I swear. I am just asking for a chance to talk. Just one talk. For Dad. Don't throw your whole family away over one mistake. We're blood. I'm begging you. Just give me one last chance. Rhett." I read it twice. My security engineer's brain parsing the text not for its emotional content, but for its payload. Dad. Health. Bad. Kidneys. Mom cries. One last chance. It was a denial of service attack, aimed at my emotions. It was also a new thread, a new piece of data. Why? Why now? The eviction was weeks ago. The repossession was a fact. The silence was total. Why this desperate, new, theatrical move? What was he really afraid of? The letter, I realized, was not about Wayne's health. It was about something Rhett had not yet lost. It sent me back to my folders, not just my private boundaries file, but to the public record. As a security professional, I know that when a bad actor gets this desperate, It is because you have not found the real vulnerability yet. You have only found the ones they let you see. I had $75,000 of incentive to find the truth. I started where I should have started 18 months ago, not with Rhett's polished business plan, but with public court filings. I ran a search on Wayne Daly. For years, I had known he had a small problem, as Jolene called it. A fondness for the track, for poker nights that lasted too long. I assumed it was just part of his boozy, failed charm. It was not small. The record was old, but the debts were not. A series of judgments from 4 years ago, filed by a collection agency I did not recognize, a total of $38,000 in gambling debts. I looked at the case number. I looked at the plaintiff. And then I went back to the bank statements for Daily Leatherworks LLC, the ones I had from those first successful 6 months. My blood did not run cold. It felt like it was being replaced by ice. There were no payments to a collection agency, but there were 4 large, identical payments of $9,500, one a month, for the first 4 months. The payee was a nondescript LLC I had never bothered to investigate. Sandia Holdings Group. I Googled it. Sandia Holdings Group had no website. It had no public face, but it had a registered agent. The same registered agent listed on the lawsuit against my father. It was not a supplier. It was the collection agency. Rhett had not been building a business for those first 4 months. He had not been reinvesting. He had taken my $75,000 loan and immediately siphoned off $38,000 to pay for his father's secret, long overdue gambling debts. The entire business was a lie. It was a front. It was a money laundering scheme to clean up Wayne's disaster, funded by Piper's college savings, the road dust wallets, the Instagram posts, the A/B testing. All of it was a smokescreen. He had been in a hole the day he walked into my kitchen with his slick presentation. I sat back. The air knocked from my lungs. I felt stupid. I had been so focused on the technicals of his business. I had missed the social engineering of mine. Now I was angry. Now I dug deeper. I went back to his inventory logs, the ones I had copied from his workshop computer. I cross-referenced the dates with his supplier invoices. I went to his Instagram page. May 10th. Just got a massive new shipment of Horween leather, the best. The photo showed at least 10 large, rolled hides. The invoice from that week 1 hide. June 1st. So many orders. We're working overtime. Gotta buy more material. The photo shelves, artfully stacked with rolls. The bank statement, no new purchase. He had just restacked the same shelves. He had been running on fumes from the very beginning. The evaporated money was not just the $38,000 to Wayne, it was everything else. The casino withdrawals, the bars, the car. He had burned through $75,000 in 6 months because he had never, not for 1 second, intended to build a business. And then I found the last piece, the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC filing. When you take a loan against a business asset, you file a public UCC lien. I knew about the first one, the one from Archer and Wren, against the Audi. But there was a second one, filed 4 months after the first. Rhett had attempted to get another loan. A second one, from a predatory online lender. He had tried to use his $5,500 industrial stamping machine as collateral, but the original loan agreement with Mila Hart had a clause, a blanket lien on all business assets. He did not own that machine free and clear. He was trying to leverage an asset he did not have. The second lender had filed the lien, discovered the conflict with Archer and Wren's primary lien, and had sent Rhett a furious letter threatening legal action for fraud. That was why he had suddenly been short on cash. He was not just a failure, he was a low-level, incompetent criminal, as if summoned. A message popped up on my screen. I had not blocked every new number, and this one was new. It was from Jolene. You are blood. Morgan, you think you are so smart, but you are killing your father. Stop making this harder for your brother. He is trying his best. I stared at the message. I looked at the printout of the fraudulent UCC filing. I looked at the evidence of the $38,000 theft. I began to organize. I am not just an engineer. I am an architect. I build systems. I opened a new document. I created a timeline. Not for them, for me, for the log. Project Daily Audit. Final Report. Phase 1 Exploitation Month 1. Loans secured under false pretenses. Immediate exfiltration of 38,051% of principal to a non-business entity, Sandia Holdings, to resolve a pre-existing, non-disclosed family debt. Daily. Phase 2. Concealment Months 1 to 6. Creation of a public-facing smokescreen Instagram. Sales, while committing inventory fraud, misrepresenting assets and financial fraud, attempting to secure secondary, conflicting liens. Phase 3. Blame Month 18. When funds were fully exhausted and default was imminent, initiated a public, emotional confrontation the party to reframe the narrative, positioning the primary victim M. Wallace as the aggressor. Phase 4. Smear Month 19. Post-consequence, deployment of public-facing harassment, workplace incident, social media to solicit public sympathy and alternative funding, GoFundMe. Phase 5. Desperation. Current legal firewalls, TRIO. Legal letters have proven effective. Bad actor is now attempting to bypass firewalls using emotional payload attacks, the letter and third-party vectors. Jolene, I printed the single-page report. I added it to the boundaries folder. Piper came over and looked at the desk. She saw Rhett's handwritten letter, still lying there in its plastic evidence bag. What does he want now? I did not hide it. I let her read it. She was 15. She was part of this. She deserved the truth. She read it, her face impassive. She did not cry. She did not get angry. She just sighed, a small, weary sigh. She looked at me. "Mom," she said, her voice quiet. "We can't fix people." I looked at my daughter, my strong, smart, resilient daughter. "No, baby," I said. "We cannot, but we can build really good firewalls." I took a blank postcard from my desk. It was a picture of a starry night sky, the same one from our jigsaw puzzle. I wrote 5 words on it. We are no longer family in a financial sense. I did not sign it. I put it in an envelope. I mailed it to the Motel Suncrest. No return address. It was my last piece of code. A connection. Cleanly terminated. I did not reply to the Facebook posts. I did not report the GoFundMe. I did not answer Jolene's text. I chose legal. Absolute silence. The log was my voice. The last email of the week came not from my family, but from my new, preferred reality. It was from Mila Hart. Subject FW judgment signed. Case 707-4D. Ms. Wallace, for your records. The deficiency judgment against Rhett Daly was signed by the judge this morning. The court has also approved our writ of garnishment. A copy of the order will be served to all major payroll processors in the state, as well as the New Mexico State Tax Authority. Any legal income Mr. Daly attempts to earn, including 1099 W-2 or state tax refunds, will be automatically garnished, up to the maximum percentage allowed by law, until the deficiency of $51,300.22 is satisfied. The system is now automated. No further action is required from you or from us. Have a good weekend. Mila Hart. I read it. The word automated was the most beautiful word I had ever read. I had been avenged, not by my anger, but by a PDF, by a procedure. The consequences were no longer my job. They were an algorithm. It was not an escape. It was a security upgrade. After the new RSU contract, I had moved us, not to a fortress, but to a quiet, gated community with a 24-hour security patrol and access-controlled entry. It was a place where family drama was not an acceptable reason to show up unannounced. Wayne and Jolene found this out on a Sunday afternoon. I was not even home. I was at the park with Piper. My first alert was a text from the front gate guard. "Ms. Wallace, a Mr. and Mrs. Daly are at the gate. They are not on your approved list. They are claiming to be your parents and say it is an emergency." I called the guard station directly. "This is Morgan Wallace. Are they in a blue sedan?" "Yes, ma'am." "They are not to be let in, under any circumstances. Their presence here is a violation of a no trespass order I have filed with APD. Please feel free to inform them that if they do not leave, you will be calling the police as per the order." "Understood." Ms. Wallace, the guard, a retired Marine, was all procedure. He did not care about the tears I was sure Jolene was shedding at the gate. He did not care about Wayne's red-faced bluster. He had an order. He had a list. They were not on it. My second alert was from the neighborhood's internal system. An hour later, a security incident report was emailed to all residents. At 14:30, two individuals, W, Daly, J, Daly, were denied entry at the main gate. After refusing to leave and becoming verbally aggressive with staff, APD was called. The individuals left the property before the patrol car arrived. A formal trespass warning has been filed. They had tried to pull the old levers. They had tried to create a public scene. But in this new environment, the system was not built to accommodate them. Their emergency was just logged as verbally aggressive. They were just a line item in a security report. They were forced to leave. The call came that night. It was from a blocked number. I had been trained, now to expect these probes. I let it ring twice. Then I picked up, and I hit record on the app I had installed for this very purpose. "Hello," I said, my voice flat. Silence. Just the sound of a car engine and distant traffic. Then, his voice. It was not a yell. It was not a plea. It was a hollow, dead sound I had never heard from him. "You won," he said. Just that. Then, a click. He was gone. I stopped the recording. I saved the audio file. Retcall violation 01 MP3. I forwarded it to the legal log email address. I did not feel victorious. I did not feel anything at all. Winning was never the point. Winning implied there was a game I wanted to be in. He had lost. He had lost his car, his business, his line of credit, his family bank, and now his ability to fight. He had been so hollowed out by his own lies that there was nothing left but that one, empty word. I did not call back. The next day, 2 envelopes arrived in the mail. They were the punctuation marks on the end of the entire saga. The first was from the county court. It was a confirmation. My temporary restraining order had been reviewed at the formal hearing, a hearing for which Rhett had not shown up. The judge, presented with the file from my lawyer, the police report, the ring video, the threatening texts. The audio of the "you won" call had made the order permanent. 3 years, no contact, no mail, no phone, no third party. It was no longer a temporary patch. It was a new, permanent state of being. It was just a file. The second envelope was from Archer and Wren Capital. It was not a letter. It was a final, itemized statement. It was a zero balance notification. It showed the original loan, the fees, the auction price of the Audi, and the massive $51,000 deficiency, and then, line by line, it showed the garnishments. They had found him. He had, it seemed, tried to get a real job, a W-2 position at a local auto parts warehouse. The system, as Mila had promised, was automated. 25% of his paycheck, every 2 weeks, was being automatically diverted. The statement was just a courtesy, a final piece of accounting to close the loop. Your association with this file is now terminated. There were no more pleading emails. There was no more drama. The debt was just a process, a piece of code running on a server in a payroll office. The real victory, however, did not come in the mail. It happened at the Bernalillo County Fair. Piper's wooden box, the one with the perfect dovetail joints, was sitting in the Youth Crafts Pavilion. She had submitted it, on her own, without telling me. It sat there, under a glass case, next to lumpy pottery and glued-together birdhouses. It was so far beyond everything else. It looked like a professional exhibit. We stood in the crowd, a paper cup of lemonade in my hand, and waited for the judges. They announced third place. They announced second. And then? And the first place, blue ribbon, and the special Artisan's Promise scholarship to Piper Wallace for her cedar joinery box. Piper's hand, which I was holding, gripped mine. She had not been breathing. She exhaled. She walked up to accept the ribbon. The head judge, a man from a local fine woodworking guild, handed her the ribbon and an envelope. "This," he said, tapping her box, "is not a high school project. This is mastery. The scholarship is for a 3-day intensive workshop with our guild. We want you there. We want to see what you build next." Piper just nodded, her face glowing. She did not cry. She just said, "Thank you. I have a lot of ideas." That night, I sat at my own desk. My new, higher-paying, principal architect contract was in front of me. The RSU restricted stock unit grant was significant. I signed it. I opened my personal finance portal. I looked at the new, vested shares. This was not money to be bled away. It was money to build with. I made a new transfer, a large one. I sent it to the Albuquerque Community Foundation. I opened a new file, an anonymous donor-advised fund. I gave it a name. The Artisan's Promise Scholarship. I wrote a note for the administrator. To be used to fund materials and instruction for high school-age students in the manual arts, especially those working in wood, leather, and metal. Please, just find the kids who are building and help them build more. The money was gone, but it was not lost. It was an investment, a quiet act of construction. The old world, the world of the daily crew chat, had gone silent. The public. Digital record was the ultimate silencer. Once the pay or quit notice became a formal eviction, and the eviction became a public court record, and the deficiency judgment was filed, the opinions of the extended family simply stopped. It is one thing to react to a video of a gift being thrown away. It is another to publicly defend a man who has been legally, verifiably, and publicly documented as a fraud. The $38,000 theft, which my lawyer had briefly mentioned in the restraining order affidavit, had done what my pain never could. It had made them ashamed. Their loyalty had a price, and my brother's public, catastrophic failure was, it turned out, too high for them to pay. The GoFundMe was deleted. The Facebook posts were quietly removed. The smear campaign was over. The last morning of this story was a Saturday. It was quiet. Piper and I were at the dining room table. She was getting ready for her woodworking workshop. I was just drinking my coffee. On the table was a new small piece of the same vegetable tanned leather she had used for the tray. A scrap. "I am glad I fixed that tray," she said, idly. "I use it every day. For my keys." "Me too," I said. She picked up a small stamping tool. I had bought her a professional set. She tapped a small, geometric pattern into the scrap. Tap, tap, tap. It was the same sound, but it was no longer a sound of anxiety. It was a sound of peace. She picked up a needle and a bit of waxed thread, and with the practiced, strong hands of a person who makes things, she began to stitch a simple, clean line. She held up the small scrap. It was just a little tag. "I want to give this to someone," she said, looking at me. "Someone who will appreciate it." I looked at her, my daughter, my strong, resilient, builder of a daughter. I did not need to say anything. She had already learned the lesson. "That," I said, my voice soft, "is enough." The knot was untied. It had not come undone with a satisfying, theatrical explosion. There was no grand confrontation where I was vindicated and they were shamed. There was no apology. The knot was untied by 1,000 small, boring cuts, a phone call to a security guard, an email to HR, a signature on a court document, a disable auto-pay button, a click on a block user icon. It was untied not with violence, but with a system, with clear boundaries, with transparent, legal processes, and with the profound, deafening silence of a life that is no longer being drained. My family was not an ATM. My love was not a debt to be collected. I did not win against anyone. I just stopped losing to myself and taught my daughter how to demand respect. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I am so curious to know where in the world you are listening from. So please drop a comment below and let me know, and we can share our thoughts. If you want to hear more stories like this, please subscribe to Maya Revenge Stories, give this video a like, and show your support by hitting that hype button so this story can be heard by more people.